Hello and welcome to the Art of Being Human. We're going to continue with sleep disorders, which I started last segment, but I didn't get very far. How did you sleep last night? How many hours of sleep did you get? How many hours of sleep do you usually need in order to live a healthy, productive life? It really does make a difference. And if you need a lot of sleep, or if you're not getting the sleep that you need, no matter how much it is, it can really affect your productivity. It can affect your creativity. You find that you're making mistakes. You're not getting done the things you want to get done. You're tired. You're logy. You're forcing yourself to stay awake through the day. And that's no way to live. Sleep is really, really important. So the purpose of sleep, as I said last week, is to restore us. Some need less than 6 hours. Some need more than 9 hours. I have a very brilliant niece who's a physician's assistant, and 2 or 3 hours is enough for her, and then she goes about her day and she gets tired and she takes another 2 or 3 hours of sleep and then she's fine again. But as they say, that people who don't require much sleep tend to be more efficient, ambitious, content, socially healthy than those who need more sleep. People who need more sleep tend to be more depressed and anxious and withdrawn, at least according to what I've read. But as I said, you can't always trust what you read, but this is kind of the rule of thumb. Now, the need to sleep increases with physical activity, illness, pregnancy, stress, and mental activity. In terms of mental activity, what does that mean? Well, the things that you do mentally, you're reading, you're teaching, you're preparing classes, you're doing some problem solving. In other words, you're not using your body as much as you're using your mind. And that does take a lot of energy to use your mind. You wouldn't think so, but to get the brain in gear to do a lot of thinking and problem solving, that takes energy just as much as physical activity does. Now, 75% of adults have sleep problems several nights a week. What's several nights a week? Well, probably 3 or 4, maybe 5. And it is, if you have insomnia, as you get older and you get to be more elderly, you tend to get insomnia. And I think a lot of elderly people, they get more tired, they don't have as much energy as they used to have. So what do? Maybe they nap in the afternoon. By the time they get to bed, they're not truly as tired as they think they are because they've already slept. So they toss and turn, and then they complain that they have insomnia. But unfortunately, there is such a thing as insomnia, where people just don't sleep, and they toss and turn, and it seems to be more prevalent among elderly people. So 75% of adults have sleep problems a few times a week, and 69% of children have sleep problems a few nights a week. That seems high to me. Most children, they're so active during the day, they go to bed and they're gone. They just sleep. But this is what is said. The prevalence of sleep problems increases with age, especially for the elderly. You tend to get more sleep problems than the younger, so it is prevalent in advanced age. Now, there are 2 types of sleep. There's the non-rapid eye movement sleep. That's NREM, non-rapid eye movements. In other words, your eyes aren't moving a lot when you're sleeping. You can tell if a person is dreaming. Their eyes are darting around because they're watching the dream that they're having. Or they're moving their body because they're taking and moving. They're a part of the dream, and they're moving in the dream, and so forth. And so forth. The body is moving as well. You have rapid eye movement, which is REM. You have non-rapid eye movement, which is NREM. The first stage of sleep lasts for about 30 to 45 minutes, and then it's the NREM, REM, and you go through 4 stages of this, and you go up and down through those stages, those 4 stages of non-rapid eye movement, and then you go into a deeper sleep. And if you were to have an electroencephalograph done, you would find that the brain waves would be slowing down, and they wouldn't peak as much. As you get into deeper sleep, things get slower and slower and slower. And actually, at some point, about 90 minutes after you sleep, your muscles go limp and you're actually paralyzed. If you were woken up at that point, you would not be able to move. Your muscles would be paralyzed. So there is a period of time when you are asleep, when you can't move your muscles, when you can't move your body. I suppose it's a little like you had anesthesia, and you were breathing anesthesia, and you're just laying there and your muscles aren't moving. You're actually paralyzed. Of course, this does not last for too long, because you're going to move out of that cycle and move into another cycle. I know a lot of people take power naps, and it's a good thing. If you're really tired and you find that you don't feel well, sleep for about 10 minutes. And then you're going to feel better. 10 to 20 minutes is like a power nap. It invigorates you, and then you really do feel better, and you can do a lot more. It's like you just woke up from a good night's sleep. If you want to take a nap, try not to sleep too long. Don't sleep for like a couple of hours. What's going to happen, the longer that you sleep, when you finally wake up, you're going to feel drugged. And the reason that you're going to feel drugged is the fact that you have interfered with a sleep cycle. Whatever sleep cycle you were in, when somebody woke you up or the phone rang and it woke you up, whatever it is, you're going to feel groggy. But if you set a timer and you just have like a 10-minute nap, they say if you're driving and you sleep and you're very sleepy, it's dangerous, because of course you can fall asleep driving. Pull over to the side of the road and sleep for 10 minutes. And generally speaking, you'll feel so much better, and you'll be wide-eyed and ready to go after 10 minutes. So the shorter nap is really more productive than the longer nap. But usually, of course, if you're going to nap and you're going to be home and you don't have anything planned, you just sleep for as long as your body wants you to. But the longer you sleep, the more groggy you are. Now, I want to get into sleep disorders. What is insomnia? Insomnia is when you cannot go to sleep, or when you do sleep, you can't maintain it. You go to sleep, you wake up. You go to sleep, you wake up. You feel like you haven't slept at all, although maybe that you have dozed or something like that, but you can't go to sleep. And what happens is that you are usually depressed as a result of that, and you get depressed and you get anxious because you can't sleep. Now, in order to be medically diagnosed as having insomnia, this has to last for about a month. If it's a month or more, then you can be medically diagnosed as insomniac. Now, this causes impairment of functioning. Not sleeping is a serious matter, because it becomes a cycle. You get so stressed out and nervous about not sleeping that it makes you not sleep. So you are perpetuating a cycle here. I can't sleep, I'm nervous. I'm nervous because I can't sleep. And so therefore, because I can't sleep, I become nervous. What am I nervous about? I can't sleep. But the nervousness prevents me from being able to go to sleep. I can't relax because I'm not expecting to be able to sleep. So it gets to be a vicious cycle. Most insomniacs are concerned with their health, and they have anxiety and depression. They become irritable, they have problems with attention, and sometimes they will use drugs in order to get sleep. And using the drugs can be habitual. It's also not good to do that. It's more common in women than men, and insomnia, if you have it, is a problem, usually starts at about middle age, and I'm suspecting, I don't have any proof of this, but in middle age you have the midlife crisis, you have all kinds of hormonal changes in your body, especially if you're a female. You have similar changes in your body if you're a male, but it's slower going than the female, who has a drastic drop in the estrogen levels. And so I suspect that that's partly due to it. Menopause, people sometimes have sleep problems in menopause, so I kind of think that the two are connected, and there might be some kind of relevancy to the age of life that you're in, because the insomnia is more frequent in women, and it does begin in midlife. I'm not saying people don't have it earlier, but this is like the rule of thumb. Now, that's insomnia. You also have hypersomnia. In hypersomnia, you have too much sleep. You have trouble staying awake during waking hours. And that poses to be a problem because that also interferes with your functioning. It also interferes with your social life, and it could be a problem for your occupation as well. People who have hypersomnia and they sleep too much, they have problems with concentration, problems with memory, problems with productivity, and problems with family relationship. And you know, sleep can be kind of a protective device so you don't have to face problems. If you sleep, you're not thinking about your problems. So some people sleep excessively in order to get away from their problems, but that's only one small segment of it. A lot of this is biological too, not just psychological, but biological as well. Many people are depressed, and they self-medicate with stimulants in order to stay awake. Theirs is an opposite problem from insomnia. They want to stay awake and they can't, so they medicate for that, self-medicate. This begins in late adolescence and early adulthood, and it's more common in men than women. So hypersomniac. Now, narcolepsy is a problem for both men and women, and it's a sleep attack. If you have narcolepsy, you have sleep attacks where suddenly you can be doing things and you're wide awake, and all of a sudden you're asleep. It's an attack of sleep. You cannot prevent falling down, because as you're working, suddenly you're not conscious anymore, you're sleeping. It's a very dangerous condition. It can occur in the middle of doing something. You could be crossing the street, a busy street, and suddenly you've collapsed. Why? Because you fell asleep. Now, 50 to 70% have something called cataplexy, which is a part of narcolepsy, 50 to 70%. And what happens is there is a significant loss of muscle tone. The jaw drops, the head drops, the knees become weak, and the skeletal muscles are paralyzed. Remember, I told you there's a certain segment of sleep, normal sleep, when you will be paralyzed and your muscles will not be moving at all. But this will be skeletal muscles paralyzed, and the person just collapses. So that's a part of the sleep attack. When they come out of it, they feel perfectly normal. You know, they don't feel like anything's wrong. It's not like they gradually wake up, like they're groggy and they gradually wake up. They're suddenly awake and they feel normal and everything's like it was. This starts in adulthood or early adulthood, and it's equally common in men and women. And you cannot do any driving because you don't know when you're going to fall asleep at the wheel. It's unpredictable. When you have your sleep attack, it's unpredictable. You cannot sense when it's coming on. It's just there. Now, some people, we've discussed seizure disorders, and some people, when they have seizures, they know when a seizure's coming because they can feel it come on. Other people don't feel it coming on, and they can't tell, and they can't predict when it's going to happen. But this narcolepsy, they can't tell. Nobody knows when they're suddenly going to drop because they're suddenly asleep. But when they wake up, they feel perfectly fine. So sleep attacks cannot be predicted. So this is a dangerous situation. You can't drive, and there are certain jobs you can't have because you could be in the middle of something, running a machine that needs supervision, your supervision, and suddenly you're asleep. So it's a problem. Now, there are some people who have parasomniac. Parasomniac is unusual behavior during sleep, doing things during sleep. Now, there are a couple of phases of this. You might have a nightmare disorder. When you have a nightmare disorder, you have frightening dreams, and you have dreams of being involved in dangerous situations, traumatic situations, and you're dreaming about that. The dreams feel very, very, very real, and it occurs during rapid eye movement. And then when you wake up from it, you're fully awake. You don't gradually wake up, or you wake up with a jolt. You were just bright-eyed and fully awake. I knew of a person who used to dream that she was burning in a fire every night. Every night she'd go to sleep. And then after she went to sleep, something would happen that was bad, and there would be a fire, and she would want to get out of the fire, but she didn't know if she could get out of the fire. And in the midst of trying to get out of the fire and not burn, and just trying to escape, she would wake up. And she remembered the total dream because she woke up before the dream was finished. And the one thing that gave her comfort was downstairs they had a clock, one of those old-fashioned clocks that tick, 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 you know, you can hear it. And it was an antique clock, and she could hear the clock tick. And she realized she was in her own bed, there was no fire, the clock was ticking as usual, and she'd listen to the clock, and it would calm her down because she woke up in the midst of what might have been a terrible fire, except it wasn't. It was just her dream. Now, what she did to help herself was she trained herself. I don't know exactly how she did it, but she trained herself so that when she had a dream that she was going to burn in a fire, that she would say, "This is just a dream. This is not real." And so she started having dreams burning in a fire, and then telling herself in the dream, "This is just a dream. This is not real. There is no fire." And then she would wake up and she'd hear the tick-tock of that clock that they had, the old clock. And then that would reinforce the idea that she really wasn't in a fire. This continued, this kind of nightmare situation continued for months. And gradually she just got out of it and she didn't do it anymore. She didn't have any therapy. She just kind of grew out of it. And so, you know, this is a nightmarish situation. Nightmares are horrible because they feel like they're real. And when you wake up, you don't know whether they're real or not. You might think that they are real for a while. Then as you get more and more conscious, it dawns on you, wait a minute. That didn't really happen. This was just a dream. I wasn't hit by a car. And usually the dreams are so bad you don't want to have them, but there they are. So it's for people like that, it's hard to get to sleep. Children from age 3 to 6 years have nightmares anyway. However, they usually grow out of them. Adults have them occasionally. In this situation, she must have been traumatized because she had it night after night. Then you have sleep terrors, when you wake up screaming and you're disoriented because you have an intense fear and you can't remember the dream, but you know you had one. You just can't remember the content. Dreams are funny for a lot of different reasons. You can have a dream, and as soon as you wake up, you can't remember it at all. It completely gets repressed, and you're just aware of the fact that you had the dream. Some dreams you can remember for a while, and then as time goes on, you forget them. In an hour or so, you forget them. If you're really interested in what your dream means, you need to write it down when you wake up before you have a chance to forget it, if you're awake enough to do that. So those are the sleep terrors. Then there's sleepwalking, and this has to do with actual physical activity during sleep, where you get up, you walk, you dress, you go to the bathroom, you talk, you drive, you do all of that normally, and you're asleep when you're doing it. It's sleepwalking, and it usually lasts from a few minutes to a half an hour. Then when it finishes, you go back to bed, and when you do wake up, you don't have any memory of it at all. It starts around 4 to 8 years old. usually goes away during adolescence, but you can have episodes of it for the rest of your life. It's equally common in boys and girls. Now, I think what I better do, we're just about out of time. Well, let me try one more thing. I don't know if I can get it all done. We may have to continue this next time. But there is a circadian rhythm sleep disorder where the normal sleep and wake schedules are disrupted, and a person cannot sleep or wake at the normal time. So you may be tired during the day, you may be very much awake at night. Circadian rhythm is the rhythm that your body goes through naturally. You have wake cycles, you have sleep cycles, and there are all kinds of cycles that you have. Cycles for your emotions, cycles for your intellect, there are all kinds of cycles. But the circadian rhythm gets mixed up in this kind of sleep problem. And the causes of sleep disorder are going to be genetic, medical. Sometimes people have sleep apnea when the oxygen gets too low in the blood. This I will have to take up next time. We won't be able to finish with this. And restless leg syndrome, where your legs jerk all around, and there is medication for that. Well, we have some more. I'm not going to be able to finish it today, but we'll definitely finish it next time. So please join me then as we continue with the sleep disorders.